Welcome, everybody. We're doing our first inaugural podcast. We don't actually have a name for this particular podcast, but my name's Ken. You might know me as Fisto from Flying Squirrel Chase. And with me today, I have two other VR developers from around the country, and we're going to get to them right now. First off, let's start with Big Squirmy over here. Big Squirmy, take it away. Tell me about yourself. First of all, tell me real name or real first name.
Yeah, man. My real name is Neil. I'm from Louisiana originally. I'm spent some time all throughout the southeast U.S. there. Lived all over. Spent a lot of time in other countries. Been all over.
Is
Germany.
that Germany?
I've been to Germany. I've been to Brazil. I've been to Africa. I've been to Spain. I've been to pretty much every island in the Bahamas. Um, been pretty much everywhere. And
Yeah. Is that military or you just like traveling?
no, I was a software engineer in the oil field industry, and
Oh, all right. All right. Cool.
I was in the military. I was in the army, but I never went anywhere with the army.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Gotta have a cough button. I don't know what you do for a cough button. All right. Thanks, Neil. And joining us is also Jason of the Storm or Fuzzy Pickles. Is that right?
No, that was just a random thing that I said
Oh,
just to get you guys laughing.
oh well,
Uh,
it worked, and I
yeah,
have a feeling that's going to be your nickname from now on. But all right,
why not?
Jason of the Storm. It's introduce yourself.
Yeah, so people might know me as Jason of the Storm. My real name is Jason Gluck, and I'm a VR developer of like 4 or 5 years now.
Right.
But technically, maybe more like 25 years or something, because when I was a little kid, I kind of stumbled into the world of VRML in the 90s,
Oh
which
yeah.
was like browser-based 3D worlds where you could have an avatar and you could like click and drag and walk around and talk to other avatars and stuff. And I was like blown away by this technology. I was like, "Whoa, this is huge. This is going to change the world, right?" Because this is like we're, it's like the metaverse.
Right.
And
Right. It's here finally.
well, this was the 90s, so I feel like it was kind of there in like
Oh,
a really
dude,
primitive form.
VR's been coming for 40 years,
But
right?
exactly, like I
So
caught that glimpse of like, oh, this is like the power of this technology. Like I
yeah,
understood
yeah,
that, and
yeah,
I messed
yeah.
around with 3D programs a little bit and made some avatars and worlds for VRML and had a really good time with it. But then it just kind of like fell short eventually, where I was like, man, there's like not really much to do other than just like
Right.
Kind
Right.
of like
Did
click and
you
the
get
drag and walk
into?
around and talk to
like the
Did you
people.
get
virtual boy,
into?
right?
Yeah.
Did you get into Second Life or anything?
So that was actually like over the line for me of like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of awkward, and there's like a lot of weird people on the internet
Yep.
that like I don't
Yep. Yep.
really want to associate with or like get too deep into this like rabbit hole of weirdness.
Right. Right.
So I was kind of like shying away from Second Life and doing my own thing with VRML and
Yep. Yep.
engaging with some smaller platforms.
Well,
Um,
it's so funny because I was just reading something about how all the things that we're doing now have been done before. Like Meta's really trying to do Horizons, right? And if you go back to early Second Life, they went through this whole thing. They had a
yeah,
different.
exactly. And so that's the thing is like I left VR and worked in music and audio for most of my life. But then I kind of circled back once like the Rift CV1 was out. I kind of tried it out at a friend's house and was like, "Whoa, okay, it's actually here now. Like you can be there in this
Right.
headset."
Right. Right. Right.
But I was thinking back to VRML where it's like, okay, now you can do this, but you can actually be there or
Right.
feel like you're
Right.
there.
Right. I get that.
And so it like took me back full circle, and I was like, okay, I'm getting back into this, and I feel like that knowledge from my past has really like informed my perspective on what's happening in the industry and in the space and how I approach development and everything.
Right, right. And hey, so Squirmy, so what are you guys using for stacks? What are you developing with? We're Unity guys,
Well,
Squirmy?
now I am, yeah. So whenever I had always been using Unreal Engine. And
Oh,
so whenever I started with VR, I had made Unity projects before, like mobile stuff, just
right.
playing around. And then I switched to Unreal Engine. I think maybe like when there was like 4.16 or something like that was the version I started with. And
Hmm.
then I remember right after the Rift S had came out, my kids had wanted one for Christmas, so I got them that for Christmas, and then I tried it out, and I was like, man, this is amazing. So, long story short, yeah, so I started developing VR with Unreal Engine. The project I'm currently working on, I had it about 80 to 90% done, and then I was originally targeting PC VR, and then decided to switch and start supporting Quest and Quest 2 when it came out, and then I realized that I just wasn't gonna hit the performance that I needed for the game in Unreal without like heavily modding the source code and the engine. And
Right. That's too
being
much work for an
yeah,
indie.
being just one person, I don't have time for that. I don't want to reinvent the
Yeah.
wheel. So I made a small project in Unity, and it just ran beautifully and looked good, way better than what anything looks in Unreal out the box. So I just, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like in Unity, you don't have to reverse engineer like an entire stack of post processing and
Right,
crazy
yeah.
lighting effects and everything. It's like,
Is that what I have almost no experience with Unreal. I have it installed. I've fired it up, and I was like, yeah, okay. And is it's tell me a little more. So you have experience with Unreal.
Yeah, I have some experience with Unreal.
You
I was originally, whenever I was making PC games, I was working on a big battle royale as at the time when PUBG was at its height, and
yeah.
I was using Unreal Engine in my day job a bit because I deal with a lot of flight simulation stuff,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh. Oh.
we were using Unreal Engine, but I'm dealing with some clients now where they're using Unity as well now, so
Yeah.
I still get a good mixture, between the two.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey, and
yeah. And
Jason, it sounds like you had Unreal Engine experience.
so I'm kind of in the opposite camp where I've been a Unity developer for like the
Hmm.
past 4 or 5 years now. And
Right.
I just started getting into Unreal this year.
Hmm.
Um, I haven't really tried Unreal with VR yet. I'm using it more for separate projects that are designed to be like really high end and
Yeah.
artistic and creative with all the
Mm.
cool effects like
Mm.
ray tracing and
Oh yeah.
lumen and all of that.
Is that
And
for your job or is that your own stuff?
So it's kind of both. Like I've just been curious about Unreal
Hmm.
Engine, and
Hmm.
I've been increasingly frustrated with Unity for
Yeah.
tons of reasons.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of took it upon myself to just start a project in Unreal
Uh,
that I can take somewhat seriously and hopefully
right.
finish in a
Oh.
reasonable amount of time.
Oh.
It's basically a
Interesting.
music video for a friend's
Yeah.
band.
Oh, that's cool.
Um,
That's cool.
and yeah, so it's like a low pressure kind of thing where I can just play around and make some cool looking stuff and call it a day.
that's the
Right.
kind of
Right.
stuff
It
it's
doesn't
great
have to
at. Yeah.
game. It doesn't have to have gameplay or bug testing or whatever. You just have to
Right.
record.
It's
Right.
not
Right.
even interactive.
That's actually a good move. So all right.
Um,
So we're all three VR developers, right? And so what are like your current projects? Like Jason, wait. So what are you working on today?
for my VR projects, they've kind of come to a screeching halt, honestly.
Uh-huh.
I got a job as a tech artist for a game art studio that does AAA games. We don't make
Oh.
AAA games, but we get contracted by AAA studios to do art for their games, like 3D art.
Oh, that's
Yeah, and it's a really fun and cool job, and it's I'm expanding my skill set a lot. I'm gonna be
right.
doing some stuff in Unreal, so that's
Right.
another reason why I'm
Sure.
picking it up and testing it out a bit.
Yep.
And yeah, I was grinding away on my games for several years and struggling to stay motivated and optimistic with the
Did you
state of the
ship these
industry and
things?
everything.
Did you ship them? Did you get them out there? Or
I put out a couple tech demos and stuff,
Mhm.
and they got really good reception. And
Yeah.
like people reach out to me all the time, like asking for more and
Right.
asking like, what's the latest update? Where's
Right,
this
right.
going?
Yeah.
I'm kind of like,
Just a matter of
like,
time now.
I mean, maybe I feel like I have a really hard time kind of elevating to like a more professional level and like starting like a business entity or like hiring people to help me out or I feel like the finish line is just so far away. I don't know how I'm going to
Yeah.
get there, honestly.
You get there by little steps at a time.
A little bit at a time.
And
yeah.
you don't have to be a big time game. Like I think initially when I started shipping my games, I formed a separate LLC and went through the hassle of it, and then I ended up not using it and doing it all the taxes and whatever through my own personal account. It just worked out better that way. So and as far as contracting with other people, I always have this dream that I'm going to find this programmer I can pay $2,000 a month or whatever, and he's going to go off and make the game I specify, right? But I don't know if that's going to happen, but one thing I did try just recently is I wanted some new heads for my video game Flying Squirrel Chase. And, I wanted it for Halloween, but I didn't plan in time. So I got on Fiverr and I just banged out 6 requests to different artists. I went to all the artists. I liked their style. And I wrote up a description. I need a head, animal head, or, needs to look like this with these requirements. Bang, bang, bang. I sent it out to a bunch of people and I got 6 guys. I chose 6 guys. They each did one head, and they did it over a 3 or 4 or 5 day period, and they came back in different waves. And I got to look at the quality of each one. And you get a sense of how good somebody's artwork is, right? Or can they understand? There were some where English is a real difficulty. You type up this description and send it to them. They say, "Okay, great," right? But that doesn't mean they really understood it, right? Like one of them. I had sent one guy a picture of something that's already in my game, and I explained, I want it in this style. Well, he came back and he recreated the model that was already in my game. I was like, dude, that's really nice work, but that's not the head I asked for. He was good about it, and he went and did his work. But so, I mean, we're all in the I use the word indies early, but we're almost not we're not indies like indie game studios. We're like garage indies. We're like the step below indie, right? We're like the little guys trying to finish something, right? I mean,
yeah, and all of my projects are just way too ambitious too. Like I have that classic beginner's problem of just having this massive scope and being like, no, I can do this. I can totally make a game that's like GTA and Skyrim and No Man's Sky combined. Like, it's no problem.
Well, just the best parts of each of those. You do narrow scope, right? But
right. Like I feel like I do have these games where I honestly do think that I can like achieve a certain scope, but just like have this length and maybe like depth of gameplay to a certain extent, but a very like narrow kind of band of focus on like the core mechanics that really make it fun. In my opinion.
Right.
I have to watch that too because I'll feature creep so bad. Like I'll come up with these ideas. I'll like be doing one thing, come up with an idea, like, oh man, that's gonna be awesome, and then I'll like implement it. Like, well, it doesn't really go with the rest of the game though, but it's awesome.
Oh, I have a platformer prototype where it has, sort of like gorilla tag motion where you leap around in low gravity, and I envision it as a platformer, right? Well, for a week or two, my idea was, the best feature in the world for this game is grappling hooks, right? But not just regular grappling hooks that are usually modeled as a single line, a spring, right? And that's why in games a grappling hook doesn't usually go around a corner. And so I did these physically accurate ropes. So and they're springy and whatever. And I bet I spent 3 weeks in my spare time to get it right. And so you shoot them from your hands. You can fling yourself with them. You can twist your hand to reel in it, or twist the other way to let out rope. And I was like, yeah, this is perfect for it. And then when I got it in, I was like, well, this ruins the entire game because it's so overpowered. If you're going around on grappling hooks, right, you can do anything. So it's like, that's a great feature, but it's not in the game I was thinking of, right? So there's a week or a month, I don't know, 3 weeks or a month on some feature I'm not going to use. But I don't
Sounds
know.
about right.
Yeah. So Squirmy, what are you working on now? What's your project right now?
Yeah, so the project I have now is called Last Space. It's kind of like I don't know if you played Descent back in the day. Have you ever played Descent? Yeah.
Oh, God, yes, of
Yeah,
course.
so it's basically a Descent clone in VR, but it's kind of like, I know they came out with like Overload or whatever it was, but I feel like the VR mode in that was like really lacking.
Right.
So it's good, full interactable cockpits and PvP and so it's corridors. It's not like open space or anything like that. It's all like in corridors, large corridor areas and big rooms and stuff like that. And yeah, so I'm back. I'm pretty much back to where I was whenever I stopped in Unreal and started in Unity.
So now, all right. So now you can move on. I love spaceship games where you can walk around the spaceship or be involved in the spaceship. There's one on the Quest, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but you're in a capsule, and it's a simulation game. So the capsule, you're in a seat, and it has various subsystems around you, like power system here, the air filtration, navigation, radar, that sort of thing. And the game doesn't tell you a thing. And it has little tutorials that kind of point things out, but they really make you work for it,
Is this on the official store?
Yes. And
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name either.
Yeah. Well, if you look it up, and it's in Unreal, so it looks okay, but it's probably been in development for a long time. So whatever framework they use to grab objects and stuff isn't exactly great. It's like, oh, I want to grab this, but I have to keep, experimenting with the correct way to hold things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's all these little subsystems that fail periodically. So you're trying to navigate, and the mechanics are like you're in a space capsule, which you have to first rotate, to the right axis, and then put some on the throttle, and it's kind of it's a brutal game, right? If you screw up, you're dead pretty much. But as you start to learn the various subsystems, your missions, last a little longer, and it's terribly satisfying for giving you the feeling of being in a tin can in space. It's like, oh, I'm really up here, and things can go really badly for me, right?
Yeah.
That's how I love that feeling, though.
Yeah.
And it's sorry, go ahead.
No, to say it's changed. Mine's changed a lot since I started it. Like it's probably completely different now from whenever I first started it in Unreal. Like now, I implemented a lot of different things. Like, for instance, voice chat. You have like a CB radio, and you have to use the radio, and you can select different channels. So you have like a channel that you can go to for party chat, or another channel you like for all chat. And if you just
wait a minute, is this multiplayer or single player?
It's multiplayer. Yeah. And so another thing I added, whenever you die, it's not like you're not just waiting to respawn. So whenever you die, there's things that go wrong on the ship in the cockpit. So you actually have to look around and fix the stuff that's wrong to be able to respawn into the level and start fighting again.
Wait a minute. This playable? Is this something we can play?
It's I got a flyable demo out right now, but I didn't put anything out yet that has all the features. I'm kind of holding a lot of stuff close to the chest still.
Oh, okay. But hey, if you want somebody testing, I'm in. I wanna try that out. That sounds awesome. When do you think you're gonna be done realistically? Like a year?
No. I'm trying to be done before December, like November, December.
Oh. My advice is ship early, even if it's not ready.
Yeah, that's what I figured. If it's going on App Lab, it's not gonna hurt to ship it early, as long as and which is, I mean, I have it in pretty much a playable state right now. So as long as it's, I'm just kind of been working on updating art assets and stuff like that. The actual core has been done for a while, and I just recently, like within the last month, solidified the art direction that I was gonna go in with it. So like now it's just like swapping out art assets.
It's can you talk about it? That one you want to keep close to your vest as well, art style.
Yeah, we can talk about it. So I'm kind of like, do you know Sweet Surrender? Have you seen that
Or
game?
the name.
I know Sweet Surrender, yeah.
Yeah, so
Looked it up.
the
It's
style,
like very, very like vibrant colors
yeah,
with like
so that's
mostly
kinda,
flat textures and gradients.
Yep. So that's kind of
with
what I'm.
outlines.
That,
They have like a really specific outline system that they do in that game that's
Yeah.
like custom engineered, and I don't know what the heck they're doing, but I'm so curious to know.
Mostly it's just all texture outlines.
No, it is not. It is not.
No.
That game does not use texture outlines.
It
uses
does?
like a weird custom solution.
No,
Wait a
And
minute.
it's not post-processing either. I don't know what
Hold
the
on.
heck it is.
Hold on. Why do you think it's using
Because
Square
Well-
me? No, it's Square me. Why
Well,
do you think
I talked to one of the guys on Twitter, and he said a lot of it's texture outlines. They do use inverted hull, like on the hands and the guns and stuff. And then, so what he said was, he said they use a combination. So like some stuff, a lot of the stuff is, I don't remember the percentages, but a lot of the stuff he said was texture, some of the texture, and then some he said they use some kind of special shader in Unity for some things where like, I'm thinking they using like vertex colors or something like that, where they can draw a line between 2 points, and then they use an inverted hull. So I think, from what I gathered from him, he's using like 3 different methods for the whole game.
Yeah, and because what I'm saying is like the lines remain consistent at different ranges, right? At different distances, and you can't do that with textures.
Which suggests inverted hull. But
right, then the inverted hull, it needs to be like dynamic.
Right. Actually, I just saw an article last week about a new way to do better looking outlines than inverted hull. It's very.
Was this the Jump Flood from Brian Golis?
Possibly. That's recent?
I think it was like within the past year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That he posted this huge article, but I don't think that's something that's really.
You can't do it in VR standalone.
You're not going to do it on Quest.
Okay. I've tried just about every outline method there is. Trust me.
Me too, man. Me too.
That's funny. That's funny. You both have,
And what else is funny? That I've kind of been like holding back is that I'm working on a space sim game too.
Oh.
And mine is more combat focused, like just get in the ship and go and start shooting stuff, and like don't worry about managing your like tin can engine and stuff. Like you're in a sick ass fighter, just flying around and shooting aliens and mining asteroids and some other fighter pilots, stuff like that. And it's all single player, just mission based. I'm trying to do kind of a Star Fox thing where you got like a branching path of missions, like 10 total maybe. And I've got probably 4 or 5 of them that are mostly in place, and like 3 different ships and a couple different guns and stuff.
Is this playable? Is that playable?
There's like a level or two. There's like a level or 2 loop that's playable right now.
Yeah. Next time we record, we got to have footage. We got to have footage of everybody's game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see these things. And just, I may as well throw it out there that, after the Flying Squirrel Chase and this platformer won my dream game. It's a space game. And you can't see the picture. But mine is a little more, think of it as like Fallout 3, but it's a somewhat open world, but it's an open world for a certain character. So you don't just roam the landscape and have endless missions. Think of it as one mission in Fallout 3, right? Where you're at home and an alien shows up and takes you to space. And his spaceship becomes the hub for the game, right? And I have a Fallout-style menu system in VR working where you walk up to a character and there's a little bee over his head, right? And the characters are all... they're animated, physics-driven, using Puppet Master. so that they can follow you. I have them nav mesh driven, and I'm using Unity Dialogue System, which it's named Unity Dialogue System, but it's really the whole back end for a game where you can script missions and have goals. And
Is that an official Unity thing, or is that an
No,
asset?
it isn't. No, it isn't. It's an asset on
Okay.
the store, but it's
But
incredible.
it uses Unity in the name. Can they do that?
Yes, they've been doing it for a long time. And when I found it, I think I bought it. I buy a lot of stuff on the asset store. I use, some I don't. I bought that ages ago on sale, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's interesting. And then I started getting into it. And the more I got into it, I was like, well, every game needs this. This is all the stuff to make. I mean, we can all make levels that look cool, right? That you can walk around, but the gameplay, of mission progression and dialogue and all that stuff is there. And so I made a VR demo of one of these puppet rig characters, which the character can follow you around. And I was using not Node Canvas, but Behavior Designer for AI. And I had the character follow me around, and he had the button when you look at him directly. And I had a vision system set up, so if you have multiple characters, you can look between them, and the little button will display over who your attention is directed at. You press B, and you come up with a menu, and the menu has follow like dialogue choices, right? But what I did is I used an embedded speech recognition package so
Oh
that
man.
instead of just clicking a button, you can say the line. And generally, you have like 2, 3, 4 choices, right? And the speech recognition is not great because it's embedded. It doesn't call out to Google or whatever, but it doesn't
Right.
have to
If
be.
it does call out, then it needs to take like a few seconds, and there's a
Yeah.
weird delay.
Have you guys tried the voice SDK from Oculus? that-
I haven't, but everything I've seen about that suggests it's going to be one of those, hey Siri, boom, yes. And,
No, it's actually pretty. It's actually pretty. It's pretty good. I played around with it. The latency is like really minimal. Like you can't. The thing about it though is you can't like talk. Like it won't like it's not constantly listening. So
Right.
like the way I'm doing it in the cockpit is like everything that you can do physically, I'm having it to where you can have a voice command as well, right? So like if your hands are full and you can't like regenerate your shields or something like that, you can just hit the button and tell the voice assistant, hey, regenerate my shields, and then it's gonna do it. But it's like maybe like I don't know. I think the most I had when testing around with it was like maybe 60 to 70 milliseconds delay between the time you give it the command and the time it returns and does it.
Do you have a stock list of commands, or is it just
No,
free form?
you make them. Yeah, you make them, and it has like an AI on the background. So like it can if somebody mispronounces something, it knows like, hey, okay, they mispronounced it, but I know this is what they wanted. And then like every so often you go into the back end and it shows what people were saying and it shows what command it gave them, and you kind of train it as it goes along. So you can say, hey, this wasn't right, this should have been this, or this wasn't right, and it should have been this. And then so you kind of training it. It's pretty good. I recommend you try it out.
But it's command based, right? So I would have to define my 10 or 15 or 20 commands.
Yeah, you have to define commands. Yeah.
Yeah, the system I use is Freeform Text. It actually has a really good dictionary, and it's based on an open source project, so it supports all these different languages, which I don't intend to use. But as far as freeform recognition, it does a fantastic job of pretty much getting it right. And when I just gather the text, and I only have to compare it to one of 4 strings, right? It's not like I have to really understand it. I have to figure out which one you were talking about. And I use some scoring model. I go through and I score your response based against the text, and it figures out, yeah, this one's the closest. And with the way it looks is like, wow, that nailed it. I need a little more feedback because I do have, there's that spike, there's that 1 second spike when it's between when it's done listening to you and you get your result. So I gotta do a little animation or a little, you know what I mean, just something to cover that. But I will. I was talking to somebody today who wanted to do spells. He's got a game with magic and whatever, and he wanted voice command spells. That approach sounds like it would be much better.
Yeah,
Right.
I played around with that on Twitter. I posted something on Twitter a long time ago when the Voice SDK first came out, and I kind of was just shooting around some fireballs. Just hold out your hand and yell fireball, and then a fireball shoots out. But what you could do with it is like say you had like a magic wand, and you could
Right.
have gesture recognition, and so like the gesture recognition would activate the voice listening, and then you shout your spell, and then it activates and shoots.
That's clever. That's really nice. I like that. And somehow we gotta have a page somewhere where all these damn demos are somewhere. You know what I mean? So people can. I post some of my stuff on Itch, and that's kind of nice. People will, like you were saying, people come out of the woodwork and whatever. Hey, I found this, and what you really ought to add is, everybody has suggestions, right?
Yeah.
But
Neil, I'm curious if you've played Elite Dangerous with voice attack.
I haven't. No. Everybody asks me if I played Elite Dangerous. Every time I post something about my game, they're like, "Have you played Elite?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "No," but
I mean, it's such a gold standard of space sim games, and then playing it in VR and using voice attack is so cool.
I'm
and it's
ashamed.
Like it makes the experience better, not just because you're using your voice, but because like binding all of these different really technical space sim control things to like a hands-on throttle and stick, or to the touch controllers where you like totally don't have enough input at all, or like a gamepad where you want to use like context menus and stuff just to fit everything on the controller. It's so nice to just only use the controller for like the real core controls, and then just use voice for everything else.
Yeah,
it's like time to land. So you're just like, all right, deploy landing gear, and you just hear the.
Yeah. I might have to check it out.
Dangerous now.
I haven't. I'm ashamed to say I don't really play many VR games. I don't.
Oh, me neither. These days, it's so hard to make time for it, and
I don't have
like
time to play games.
Put on the headset, and my headset like always dies, even when I shut it off. I feel like it just dies by the time I want
Wait
to
a minute.
use it
Have you
again.
guys played Boneworks yet?
You mean Bone Lab?
Bone Lab, sorry.
Yeah, because I have played Boneworks, so I feel like I've already basically played Bone Lab. Because it's like built off the same mechanics, right? It's just
the
Quest version of everything.
The rig's different. The rig has shoulders and elbows and forearms. So when you want to mantle over an object, you can put your arm up and go.
I mean, that was in Boneworks too.
Oh, was it really?
As far as I remember, yeah. I mean, it was like a full body physics avatar.
Oh no! Boneworks. Boneworks was a hexa rig. A Bone Lab is a penta rig. As far as I know, Bone Lab just had the local ball, the body, head, and hands. I don't believe there were elbows.
There were definitely elbows. Because I remember walking around a room, and like my arm would go through a shelf or something, and the shelf would like get hooked right here on my elbow, and I'd be like dragging a shelf behind me. I'm like, what is going on?
Yep. Okay. Well, the rig is different between the two. One of the reasons is they actually early on in the game they put up a diagram of their rig.
Yeah.
And
I remember that in Boneworks.
Yeah. So
it's cool to see like some like it feels like behind the scenes, but they're just kind of shoving it in your face. It's cool.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
I feel like I feel like I should play more VR games, but I feel like if I did, then I would like start feature creeping even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I probably would.
I'll tell you one of the I do play VR games. I try to, and one of the reasons I do is it makes my stuff look so much better. Like when I start working on a level, I'm like, oh, it needs more than this, and it has to have all this. And I some of these games I play, and I go, wait a minute, I got that. I can do that, right? So it helped me realize that I can ship what I have,
Yeah.
and it gets me out
that's
of
a great point.
it gets
That
me out of
kind
the
of
AAA space.
I'll say that I was kind of being a perfectionist for a while there, and then like I was running some performance tests, and then I wanted something to kind of test against. So like I played Population 1, and
Right.
I was like looking around there. I was like, man, I can just I don't have to worry about any of the stuff I was worrying about.
Yep. Yep. When
Like,
you see what's out there, dude. I mean, Frenzy
Yeah,
VR.
honestly, the bar is pretty
yeah,
low
I
even
mean,
for
like
good VR experiences.
a lot of it's
And
like intersecting meshes and no AO or anything around, and it's like man, I got it
Yep.
going on there.
Well, actually, that is, and that right there is why we have a chance as garage indies. Okay, like the big money hasn't come to VR yet. Meta's there. They're doing their thing. Zuckerberg wants a platform, right? He missed it on mobile phones. He's all in on VR. And VR has been coming for 40 years. So he's pushing it as far as he's going. And for a while there, when the Quest 2 was hot, they went Quest 1 was popular, like, wait a minute, it's happening. Okay, Quest 2, let's spend some money, let's get some promotion, let's buy all these companies up, and they built this, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, we're ahead of the market here. And now, I mean this, now with all the problems, supply chain problems, whatever, the whole industry is kind of cooling off. And people are going, oh man, we were almost there, we were this close, you know? But I feel like there is this momentum. But if the money had happened like they thought, all the big guys would be in now. And we would be fighting those games that are like, I can't even compete. Mine looks like garbage compared to theirs. But because the market is so much slower evolution-wise than compared to like the phone market, we actually have this time. The big guys, they're not in there yet because the money's not there. And they also don't quite know what to do with VR. We're the little guys.
That's what I was going to say is that, like, yeah, even if these big guys do come in, they're new to the game. Like, they haven't been making VR games for the past 5-10 years. So they have this whole new paradigm to discover and learn about and really study in order to, like, do all these core mechanics in a way that's really fun and engaging. Or they just do what they think is right and kind of stumble and fall, like the Medal of Honor game that Oculus or Meta paid like $10 million for or something, right? Like
that was a big, that
kind
was
of a mess.
That was a big top shelf Meta project. That was supposed to be, guys, we're going to show you how to make AAA games for VR, and then we're gonna make millions off it. When it came out, people were like, what is this mess, right?
Exactly.
I do see a shift happening right now, though. I want to know if you guys see the same thing. It in the beginning, right? It used to be where single player games, single player experiences. That's all you really needed. But now it seems like we're kind of in this transition phase where everybody wants these multiplayer experiences. Everybody wants a multiplayer game because they're just not enough games out there. They play the ones they have, and they're bored. I see it all the time on Reddit and Twitter. Everybody's like, give me a good game to play. I'm bored with all the games that I have. They're looking for more stuff. And
there's single players still out there. They're just saying they're bored of it, and they're going with what they have.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I attribute that to like there's a stickiness to like just doing anything with your friends or with people that are cool that you enjoy their company with, right? Where like you can play a single player game and you finish it and you had a great time and it's over and you're probably not going to touch it again unless it has like some sandbox element where you can, do something over and over in slightly different ways or something like that. But if it's just like a linear narrative thing and you finish it, there's not really much of a reason to go back to it. Whereas even something like VR chat, where you just sit around and chat with your friends, like there's a reason to do that every single day.
Right.
And you have a reason to come back to that. Even if the gameplay is whatever, if it's something you can do with your friends, then it's like you have a reason to come back to it over and over.
Yeah.
If you have fun mechanics with that, then it's like a no-brainer. It's like, I'm just going to play this all the time.
And I think that's what Meta's trying to do with Horizons, but I don't think they're going to succeed with that. I think they're trying to be like the Roblox of VR. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, have you guys used it? I've went in there like 1 or 2 times, and I was just like, man, I can't do this. Like, you know, if you could build the worlds and stuff outside of VR and like build it on the PC and then go in the world, but like I hate just being in VR trying to like build stuff like that.
Well, they're primitive tools, and I see what the thing that kills me about Horizon is it's not fun on any level. Like nobody comes out and goes, you know, it's rough, but it's kind of fun. Right? I had a little fun in there. Guess what? Well, it's not fun. But my little game, Flying Squirrel Chase, I popped in there the other night. Usually I go in with a custom head so everybody knows it's me. You know, it's got the name Fisto, and they pretty much spot me right away. And if I speak, they know I'm not a kid, right? So my cover's blown. I went in the other night with a stock head, and I didn't speak, and I just watched for like 20 minutes, half hour, and I videoed it. And, you know, I went from room to room, and there's some kid's picking on another kid. He's grabbing his head as the other kid's flying around, and the kid doesn't want him on the head, and they're whining at each other. I go to another room, and there's, you know, again, there are kids working it out. And so I popped a few more rooms, but the more rooms I went to, I started to find kids just like having so much fun. I popped into one room, and there was one kid in the front, and somebody was holding on to his head, somebody was holding on to his, and one more guy, and they're flying around the level, flapping their hands, and they come across like a chain. And all I hear is this kid scream at me, "This game is so much fun!" It's like that. Nobody ever said that in Horizons.
No.
No kid ever screamed out, "This is so much fun." It's like, I have this little thing, and I was like, I got to tell somebody about this. I feel like I want to talk to somebody at Meta. It's like, guys, come here. I know it's rough, but listen.
Yeah.
Listen for 10 minutes.
Well, just look at all the Gorilla Tag clones, right? That tells you right there that that's the kind of experiences that people want and are looking for. And I don't know. I think they don't really know what they want Horizons to be.
No, but they don't want it to be Gorilla Tag because they haven't promoted Gorilla Tag to the store, so they don't want GT associated
they're
with
working
it.
on their own version of Gorilla Tag, I think.
Yeah, which is crazy, by the way.
They invaded it.
No, that's not a rumor you've heard, is it?
No, it's just what I assume is going to happen, honestly.
Oh, I hope not.
But have you heard that Lemming, the developer of Gorilla Tag, he actually got 2 developers from Ready at Dawn, the makers of Echo VR.
I knew about that, yeah.
And another guy who was at Ready at Dawn at the time, but he also had worked with Oculus Studios on a bunch of their first-party games. So Lemming is like he's expanded and got 2 like heavy hitters on his team now.
I knew he
working
was
closely
hiring
with Oculus, so I'm like, I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I knew he was hiring, but wow, what a team,
right?
You know, man, because
those guys are gonna take him and just like boost him to a whole other level.
Yep.
That is such a good move.
Yep. Agreed.
And it's a crazy move on their part to see these like AAA hard-hitting guys from Ready at Dawn and Oculus Studios to be like, we're going to help out the Gorilla Tag guy.
Yeah, because he had never made a game or anything before that, right?
Nope.
The what?
Nope. He never made a game before Gorilla Tag. Gorilla Tag was his first.
Yeah.
So, did you guys play Gorilla Tag?
I played it once, but
I played it a few times. It's like, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea, but I understand the appeal, and like I get why the kids are like going crazy over it, and I think there's a lot to learn from Lemming's whole design philosophy and everything, and he's very like outspoken and open about it. So you know, I feel like more people should pay attention and listen to him.
And that's part of the reason why there's so many clones out there is because he released like a public version of his locomotion system out there, and then so people just picked it up and started making these clones. And I mean, even these little clones are coming up and making all kind of money. They had I don't know if you've seen
the Monkey Madness drama.
Where they,
oh my god,
like
what?
There's a game called Monkey Madness, I think it was, and they had their networking was kind of, I think it was like a kid, like a teenager that made it, just Gorilla Tag clone, and they were making like, I don't know, like 30,000 a month or something like that, but their Photon networking bill was like, I don't know, 2 times more than what they made or something like that, because they were like doing crazy stuff like syncing like colors every frame or something like that, like across the network.
Yeah, it was just like some absurd amount of bandwidth that they were using, and like there was a whole, like, we had a ton of conversations about it in the Start Discord, where we're just saying, like, what is this kid doing with the networking to actually rack up a build like that massive? And then, the servers get shut down, but he's trying to, like, get players to play the game and make the in-app purchases so that he can make enough money to support the servers, but he can't pay the bill. And, like, I think they forgave the costs of the bill.
Yeah, but they told him he wasn't allowed
Photon now.
Photon, yeah, he's banned for Photon.
Wow. There's a story there. Yeah, we need to talk to that.
And there's an extra layer of drama where he was using stolen assets as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it was they posted some
crazy.
Like they ripped assets straight from Gorilla Tag. Like one tree was like, somebody posted a tree and it was like the exact identical tree from Gorilla Tag.
That's
like straight up decompiled the APK and pulled the assets from it.
I've had that happen.
Why are you
gonna
go that far? There's free trees you can just download from the asset store, man.
You can make that in 2 minutes in Blender,
Yeah. I've had people take assets from my game and show up in their GT clone, and I had to can you take that out? He was like, I just got it off the internet. No, you didn't. You got it from my game. But these clones, one of the reasons, yes, Lemming shared his source code for the movement system, but I get contacted by these Gorilla Tag clone guys all the time because they play Flying Squirrel Chase. And like I was really early out. Flying Squirrel Chase is kind of a GT clone. I mean, you walk on your hands, right? There's a different theme or whatever. So I was out early and I didn't know what to call it. So Flying Squirrel Chase, right? So all these guys, when they do these clones, they get in touch with me, right? And they ask for different things or just say hi. And what happened is early on, somebody put together a Unity package of everything required. It had norm core. It had all the rigs set up, so you could just It's a template.
I want to say I've seen a YouTube video that has like a download link for a full-on template. Yeah.
So a lot of these come from that template. That's why if these guys aren't very good, they don't change much. They look the same as the other games, right?
Exactly,
but then again, there are games. There's this game called Fish Game, and the guy's not using Unity. He's coding in, I think he's coding in C++ for real.
I thought he was using Unity.
No. He's Unity. All right,
Yeah,
sorry. I was thinking of another dude. There's a guy in Germany I talked to.
You're thinking of
Grab.
probably Grab.
Great.
Yes, Grab.
Yeah, he made that's Sven. Yeah, he made his own. They made their own engine. Yeah, and
that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, props to Flynn. He is a hell of a developer and technical artist, and I feel like every time I have some question about some technical shader stuff.
Oh yeah, he's always helping out. So,
thanks, Flynn.
Well, he's the first dude to answer you. You know what I mean? Whenever you post a question, it's like, and he's in all the VR Discords I'm on. Like I'll join a new VR Discord and boom, and Flynn is there, and the other dude, the guy who does Fish Game, is there. And he started, I think he started with a template, or maybe he even put the template together himself. But he keeps putting stuff out, and I played it the other night. I played it last night, and he's got all these little experiments in there, right? And some of them work, and some of them don't, but some of them do. And I don't know what kind of game he's made. It's like this little amusement park that's kind of wacky.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Roblox. It's kind of like a Roblox style game, where there's a bunch of little mini games inside the game. And
Oh, that's what that is.
yeah. And but he helped out. The guy that made Fish Game, he was helping out those guys from Monkey Mayhem, trying to help them clean up their netcode before their servers got down. And so as a thank you, they posted like on their game wall or whatever, like for his advertisement for his game. So then now that they shut down, like a lot of them went to Fish Game. So now he's I think making a bunch of money and has all kind of players from that.
Actually, yeah, his
Mhm.
reviews. He started small, but he's not small anymore. He's growing. I bet I would
Yeah.
love to see his numbers. He's got some constant growth going on.
And I
So
admire that spirit so much of just like putting it out there and just throwing more stuff at it and tinkering away and everything and building it as he goes. Like
mhm.
that's something that I'm so afraid to do with AMI projects where I'm like, no, it's not done yet. It needs to
Yeah.
get to at least this point where everything
Yeah.
works great and like,
Right.
you know, I wish I could do that so much and kind of throw something out there and just grow with it instead of
Right.
holding back so much
With
and then
flying
trying to.
Flying Squirrel, I eventually put it out and I gave up with I used to work very slowly on it and I'd check in my changes and the architect stuff so that it would be good in the future. And then I just got to the point where I just got to start fixing things in like the quickest way possible, even if they suck. Like, and I have to stop worrying that the code is ugly. Like, I got to do what I need to move on to the next thing and I'll fix it later. It's a weird place to be in, you know, but it's the only way I make progress.
And then maybe to segue into some more technical conversation, I feel like one of the things that's been holding me back lately is the whole move from the legacy VR pipeline to OpenXR and Unity's XR plugin management system.
Right.
Where before, you check VR mode in the player settings.
Yeah.
You install like the Oculus SDK and the Steam VR SDK, and you manage them separately. And that's the system that all of my projects are built on. I'm using like VRTK3 with Unity 2018.
Right. Oh.
And so I'm locked into all these old systems where I think Meta's not even going to allow legacy VR projects anymore. I'm not sure what the cutoff date is, but I don't think I'll be able to make it.
Oh.
So, and I'm hearing from other developers like Ancient Dungeon is another Start project that actually made it to the official store recently. And he was using VRTK3 and had to like rip all of it out and rebuild like all of the interactions from scratch again. And that's pretty much what I'm going to have to do. Or get a new interaction framework like VRIF or Hurricane or something like that. And reconstruct all of my own mechanics around those kits or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like dreading that so much. I don't want to do that. I just want to make the game.
What are you using for a kit? Squirmy, what are you using for VR?
I'm using a combination of the Oculus, what Oculus has in their SDK. So I'm using like the Oculus camera rig and stuff, but for hands I'm using the Unity XR toolkit.
Oh dear God!
Interesting.
Wow.
So in that case, you're locking yourself into the Oculus ecosystem.
Just for the camera,
right?
just for the camera, because they have like different stuff that they do with the rendering that I find makes it a lot better and makes it look cleaner and stuff like that. So I'm using the camera rig for just the camera, and then for all the hands and the interactions, I'm using the Unity XR toolkit.
Oh, so your hands don't collide with objects in the world?
Yeah, they do.
I don't think that's what he's like.
Well, I mean, can you push your arm through the wall?
Hand collision has nothing to do with this or that plugin or kit. It's just how you do your hands.
Right. Yeah. It's just, in other words, like how, I mean, they basically work the same way. Like Oculus has, but then Oculus just changed a bunch of stuff with their interaction. So, because at one time I had a separate VR rig just for the menu, for the start menu, and that was using like all Oculus SDK stuff, and I had updated the SDK to like I think it was when I went from like 43 to 44 or something like that, and it just broke a bunch of stuff because they changed a bunch of stuff with how they're handling the input and stuff like that now.
But
like,
I didn't hear the answer to my
fast and break
question.
things.
Can your hand still move through a wall?
Well, you're in the cockpit, so there's no, you can't reach the walls really.
But if you could reach the wall,
yeah, I mean,
then
I don't have any. I'm not running any kind of collision or anything like that.
Right. Oh, okay, all right. I'm just I use Hurricane and Hexabody, and I have for about a year now. They have a really good Discord, and the support's good, and there's a lot of great physics programmers in there, and that's, as far Hurricane has all the regular, like if you're looking for a toolkit, and Hurricane's a great way to start. That'll give you like all the interactions, teleport, and all that stuff, and sockets.
I don't think I would ever use Hurricane.
Why not?
Well, so recently I was helping another developer. He has a game out, and he was using Hurricane, and he had all these other. And he's not a programmer; he's like an art guy, So he has like all these different systems from like different assets that he was like, having all working together, and like almost nothing would work directly with Hurricane. So like I helped him out and did made a bunch of custom stuff to get stuff working together. And and it may have just been something in his project, but the way he had something set up, but no external script would work with Hurricane. Like it would throw errors. It was just going crazy. So
I don't know what's in the dude's project, but
yeah,
Hurricane's a pretty solid toolkit. The other one is what? VRIF? Is that?
Yeah. I have that one.
Yeah,
that's
another popular one. And then Ultimate XR is another one that's pretty new.
That's the one that just came out,
really,
yeah. And that one's open source and free.
Open source, yeah. But Ultimate XR is not like physics oriented the way Hurricane and Hexabody is. Like Hurricane is what you use if you want like blade and sorcery, ragdoll physics, and like Boneworks style, like avatar and locomotion and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm somewhat interested in that, but there's certain things that I feel like come out a little janky. Like I think like physics-based climbing, when your hands are attached by spring joints and stuff like that, and you're kind of like floating and bouncing around all weird. Like it doesn't feel right to me.
I don't
ways, but then like I do like having a physical player controller and being able to like jump and have momentum and
you got to try my stuff because it's all jank.
I'm not using. I'm not using any physics in Unity at all. I'm using like everything I have is simulated, so it's all like simulated physics because that's what I find gave the best feel. And
I think when you're doing vehicle stuff, like to be in the cockpit of a moving vehicle, especially if like the vehicle is a rigid body and has physics.
Oh yeah.
Then if you're doing like physics interactions inside of a physics cockpit, things get really messy really fast.
Right.
I tried to put I tried to make like a little bobblehead and put it because I got these little bobbleheads that I made that's gonna be like in-app purchase stuff, so you can decorate the cockpit and have like a little bobblehead or like a little hanger or something, hanging. And I tried to use physics at first to do it, and then it was just like, oh man, it was so bad. So then I was like, okay, this is all gonna have to be simulated.
Oh, that's the first thing I look for when I get in a game is how physical is the controller. Like, number one, can I pass my hands through the wall? Can I push against objects? Like, I don't need everything to be Boneworks, right? But I need some acknowledgement that this world is real.
I think that sense of like tangibility of like, oh, this is a thing that I can touch.
Yeah.
Right.
It helps so much. And if you can make that happen and keep it stable, then like, oh, that's awesome.
Right. So what I did was in the cockpit, like say if you get up, it's best to play it seated, but if you get up and walk away, you're gonna go out of the cockpit, right? So the way I do it is if you leave too far from the center of the cockpit, then I just fade the screen to black and then put up like a warning like,
Yeah.
hey, you need to recenter or you need to
I think your point about you need stability when you're in a seated vehicle, because Bone Lab has, I just got to the cart level on Bone Lab where you're riding in a car and it's all physics based and it's a mess. It's, you play that for a few minutes and you got to take the headset off. It's like, no, that wasn't fun. Vehicles don't work like that,
Yeah, and then like, I was trying to come up with a way to mitigate, like I used to, like I couldn't play like Pavlov and stuff like that because like I would kind of get sick just from like the smooth turning and stuff, and I hate snap turn. I cannot stand snap turn. But like
snap turn, I can't do smooth.
But the smooth turn would make me sick. But in the when you're sitting in the cockpit, because you have so much around you, I feel like I find it grounds you a lot more. But then even on top of that, to kind of help, I had a few people say they still kind of got a little sick from it. So what I did was I made these shutters that you can activate, and it brings these shutters up over the windows. So it's not like like how some games will blur the peripheral and all. So it kind of gives you that same effect, but you're still in the cockpit and nothing's blurred. So you just you're only able to see out that front window, and the blinders kind of keep.
You ever play Ultra Wings?
No.
Ultra Wings has some comfort settings that are just like that, where it's like an in-world thing where the windows on the side of the cockpit just get shuttered up with like cool colored shades that just block the view of outside.
But
basically
not
with like an artificial shutter that's like covering your vision. It's just in the cockpit there.
I've played Ultra Wings too, and that's the kind of game where it's like, I bet this is really fun if I could stay in it for more than a few minutes. That one does make me a little woozy, so it's best to have the stability. Hey guys, all right, good so far. I got to think about wrapping it up here, but
we're coming up on there. But I did want to. I am curious. What do you guys think about? Well, we might want to save that one for next time because that could go on forever. I was gonna say, what do you guys think about the whole App Lab and the state of it and everything? But that'll probably be a conversation.
Yeah,
for another day.
that's an episode, dude. That's an episode. No, I think
I can sum it up in one word: disgraceful.
Yeah.
Well, I can expand on that next time, but I'm pretty strongly against this whole concept of App Lab and the curation strategy that Meta has going on.
Well, let's wrap this up and we'll pick it up for the next one.